The internet is often described as the greatest invention of the modern age, a digital world where information moves faster than light, where billions of people communicate, trade, learn, and build entire lives behind glowing screens. But hidden inside this vast network, there has always been another reality, a silent war, a battle between the people who build systems and the people who break them. Among thousands of hackers who have appeared over the decades, there have been a few legendary names, people whose skills were so advanced, so dangerous, that governments, corporations, and intelligence agencies feared what they could do with a single computer. But one name stands above them all, a hacker whose power reshaped how the world thinks about cybersecurity. A man who once had the ability to access some of the most secure networks on the planet without even touching them physically. This is the story of the hacker many once called the most powerful hacker in history. Long before governments took cybersecurity seriously, before companies invested billions in digital protection, the internet was still young, chaotic, and poorly defended. During the late 1980s and early 1990s, computer networks were expanding rapidly across the United States. Banks, universities, defense contractors, and telecommunications companies were connecting their systems to growing digital networks. But security was an afterthought. Most systems relied on simple passwords. Firewalls were primitive, and very few people truly understood the dangers of a skilled intruder. For hackers, it was the perfect playground.
And somewhere inside that chaotic digital frontier, a young man was quietly discovering just how fragile the world's systems really were. His name was Kevin Mitnick. Before becoming the most wanted hacker in America, Mitnick was simply a curious kid growing up in Los Angeles. He wasn't interested in sports, popularity, or normal teenage life. What fascinated him were systems, how things worked, how they connected, and more importantly, how they could be manipulated. But Kevin didn't start by hacking computers. His first hack happened years earlier, with something much simpler, the public transportation system. As a teenager, Mitnick became fascinated with the punch card ticket system used on city buses. He discovered that bus transfers were printed with a predictable pattern. Once he understood the pattern, he realized something shocking. He could generate unlimited valid transfers. Soon, Kevin was riding buses across the city without paying a single cent. To most people, it was just a clever trick, but to Kevin, it was the beginning of something much bigger. Because what he had discovered wasn't just a way to ride buses for free. He had discovered system exploitation, and once he understood that systems had weaknesses, he started looking for bigger ones. During the early days of personal computing, phone networks were among the most valuable and mysterious systems in existence. The entire communication infrastructure of the world ran through them, and hackers had discovered a strange loophole. If you understood the hidden tones used by the telephone system, you could manipulate it. These hackers were known as phone phreakers. Using homemade electronic devices called blue boxes, they could trick phone systems into granting free long-distance calls. For Kevin Mitnick, phone phreaking wasn't just a hobby. It was a gateway, a doorway into the hidden architecture of global communication. By studying telephone systems, he learned something incredibly powerful. The most secure systems weren't broken with brute force. They were broken with information. And the easiest way to get information wasn't through machines, it was through people. Kevin began mastering a technique that would later make him one of the most dangerous hackers alive, a technique known today as social engineering. Instead of attacking systems directly, he would call employees at companies, pretend to be technicians or engineers, and convince them to reveal passwords, internal access codes, and confidential procedures.
To the employees on the phone, he sounded confident, professional, and legitimate. They had no idea they were speaking to a hacker. Within minutes, Kevin could gain access to systems that were supposed to be completely secure. Telecommunications companies were among his first major targets. By infiltrating their internal systems, Mitnick gained access to switching networks, administrative tools, and confidential technical documentation. This gave him an extraordinary level of control over communication networks. But Kevin wasn't stealing money. He wasn't destroying systems. What he wanted was knowledge. The deeper he went, the more fascinated he became with the invisible architecture of the digital world. But eventually, his activities caught attention. Telephone companies began noticing strange anomalies in their networks. Unauthorized access, unknown connections, mysterious changes inside internal systems. And slowly, investigators began tracing the digital footprints. The authorities soon realized something alarming. These intrusions weren't random. They were being carried out by someone who understood systems better than the people who designed them. Someone who could move through networks like a ghost. Someone who could disappear without leaving evidence. By the early 1990s, Kevin Mitnick had already broken into dozens of major corporate and government systems. Some of the companies affected included major technology firms, telecommunications providers, and defense contractors. The FBI began monitoring his activities, but catching him was another challenge entirely. Because Kevin had learned one final trick. He knew how investigators tracked hackers, and he knew how to stay ahead of them. Every time authorities thought they were close, he vanished. Different networks, different identities, different locations. To law enforcement, he became something almost mythical, a hacker who could infiltrate the most secure systems in the world and then disappear without a trace. Soon, the FBI would label him something unprecedented, the most wanted computer criminal in the United States. But the most shocking part of the story was still ahead, because Kevin Mitnick was about to carry out the hack that would trigger one of the largest manhunts in cybercrime history. And when the authorities finally realized what he had done, the entire world of cybersecurity would change forever.